before we get started with our meeting tonight, I'd just like to note that our president, our chairman, and vice chairman are absent tonight. Therefore, there is a need for the election of acting officers. So I would entertain a motion to elect an acting chair and acting secretary.
I would like to make a motion that Leslie Mart be made the acting chair of the meeting and that Lindsay Leak be made the meeting secretary, recording secretary for the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right, let us begin.
Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to the March 2025 meeting of the Tupelo Planning Committee. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones. At this time, please rise for the invocation given by Scott Davis, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Patty Thompson.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, just thank you for this beautiful day we had today, and just be with us as we make these decisions tonight, and that they will be the best decisions for the city. And we ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Would you face the flag, please? Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The Tupelo Planning Committee is a volunteer group appointed by the mayor and city council. We do not receive compensation and do it as a community service. The committee spends a lot of time and our own funds studying, researching the applications, and visiting the sites that are on our agenda each month. We ask that you remember that we do not take our positions lightly on any application. Our decisions are based on facts as they are presented and with regard to the regulations set forth in the city code. The Planning Committee may impose conditions on approvals of a request as it deems necessary to mitigate potential hazards or problems or bring the nonconformity into compliance to the extent necessary to protect the rights and interests of nearby property owners and the general public. At this time, I would like the staff and committee members to introduce themselves.
Tanner Newman, Director of Development Services.
Madeline Chardon, the zoning tech.
Aaron Washington.
Victor Fleitas.
Leslie Mart.
Lindsay Leak.
Patty Thompson.
Scott Davis.
Ben Logan, City Attorney.
Thank you. I would like to take this time to review our last meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the meeting minutes? Excuse
I
me.
move we approve.
Second.
Thank you. That was a motion by Scott Davis and a second by Lindsay Leak. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? Unanimous. Motion carries. Mr. Newman, is there anything to report on the city council's actions from our last meeting?
No, ma'am. Nothing new.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to review our agenda, which I think everybody should have. There are 3 items left on our agenda tonight. As we work through these items, if you are here in order to comment on the application, please, when you are asked, move to the podium, speak clearly into the microphone, state your name and address before offering any comments. We will start with our Flex Variance 25-01. That covers, the address is 499 South Gloucester. It's a flexibility variance request to allow an additional freestanding sign at Midtown Point for urologic and cardiology. Mr. Newman, have the surrounding property owners been notified?
They have.
Were there any responses?
No, ma'am.
Wonderful. Do we have, I think that's Kyle back there, Mr. Kyle Fallon? Would you please come up to the podium, state your name, address, and present your request to the committee? Hold on just a minute.
Sure.
Oh, do we do that first? Mr. Newman,
Ah.
does the city have an opinion on the application?
Yes, Madam Chair, the department has reviewed this application. To be specific, this is a request to allow an additional ground sign of 50 to 100 square feet at this particular location. This is a flexible variance request, and when reviewing or considering a flexible variance, there are three key findings that the committee is required to consider. One, that a special or unique circumstance or condition or practical difficulties exist which apply to this property, this land, building, or uses involved, which are not generally applicable to other land, building, structures, or uses in the same zoning district. The department found that Midtown Point property was originally developed as a commercial mall with multiple uses on a single parcel, and unique sign restrictions for that type of development. Mall tenants were not allowed to place ground signs on the property, as signage was allowed for the mall itself. This property is assessed primarily from Gloucester Street, but has limited frontage there. These characteristics make the property unique and create difficulties in getting adequate sign exposure for current tenants. Medical offices do not need signage to attract customers in the way that retail businesses do, but they do need to be accessible, and their patients should be able to locate them within reason. The next item to consider is that special conditions or circumstances or practical difficulties do not result from the actions of the applicant, their agent or employee or contractor. The department found that special conditions relating to this site were created by the mall's original developers, not the present owners or tenants. And then the third consideration is that granting of this variance will not result in advantages or special privileges to the applicant or property owner that this code denies to other individuals. And we found that the property as currently used needs better signage than it did when the mall was a destination, and we do recommend approval of this application.
Okay, thank you.
Hi,
Mr.
good evening.
Caroline?
Kyle Fallon, CEO of Urologic. Address is 499 Gloucester Creek Village, Suite A1.
Okay, please tell us about the application.
Sure. As mentioned by Mr. Tanner, there are some issues with wayfinding. While we've been serving Tupelo for 60 years, we've been in the current location nearly 10, and even still we struggle with patients finding our location. Especially in your spring and summer months when the trees on the property are in bloom. You can't see the signage that we do have on the building there because of the other buildings that are on the roadway there. There is a passage, an entrance there that has a current sign with Cardiology and Associates. It's about 3.5, 4 feet tall, no electricity, pretty invisible. Unless you're from here, you really don't know which sign I'm talking about. But we're looking for something that's a little bit better, not only for urologic, but also cardiology. Wendy Chisholm, their CEO, agrees. They're actually more obscure than we are. If you know the facility there on the end cap on Robert E. Lee Drive there, and it's extremely hard for their patients to find them. That's a huge cardiology practice. We're a huge urology practice. I know just our practice, we see approximately 200 patients a day. I can't speak for Cardiology and Associates, but wayfinding for 1,000 patients a week, unless from the area, is a bit of a struggle. Would appreciate your consideration for better wayfinding. A sign within the city ordinance, I think there's a 16-foot limitation there that we would abide by. But this sign would replace the one that's in place with electricity. So at night, we would also have that signage there. Less about attracting, new business, more about the wayfinding, though.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that very much. Does the committee have any questions for the applicant?
So will this sign be just Urologic, or will it be Cardiology Associates as well?
Both. both. Full transparency, I was told I'd have a better chance at approval if we had multiple tenants on the sign. Obviously, we can't get all of Chris Mills' tenants on the sign there. Understanding that side of the building, the north end, were the two biggest tenants there that would have probably more impact. If we could consolidate to just a few, I think we and cardiology would make the most sense.
Sir, would it be correct, and I may be completely wrong, that given the nature of your practice in urology, I know you may not be able to speak to cardiology, but my guess is that your patient group tends to skew older than the general population and include individuals who may not be very technically savvy, use apps like Google or other things to try to find their way.
Yes, sir, that is accurate. Most of our patients are, 50 plus, and I think we all know cardiology patients are gonna range in that age demographic as well, beyond 50 years old.
Would it be fair to say also that a lot of the people who come to see you are not necessarily Tupelo residents, but people who are
Yes.
coming to the city from more rural areas?
Yes, we actually, in fact, most of our patients are from outside of Lee County.
I drive that area very often, and I can recall distinctly within the last 2 to 3 weeks seeing a noticeably older aged couple struggling with navigating, and it appeared to me like they were trying to find their way to the mall and those offices. So I think it's well taken from my perspective. Thank you, sir. Those are my questions.
Will the sign be in the divided road area, or will it be in front of the Bank Plus property?
In the divided, there's a median of sorts. It's probably 2.5 feet wide, so it wouldn't obscure or mess up traffic in any way. It would go exactly where the current sign sits today.
Is there any option of landscaping right there, or is it just all hard?
It's all hard surface. Not opposed to it. I think it'd look great, but that's me speaking as a tenant. That'd be a Chris Mills conversation we would have to have.
So, Lindsay commented on the landscaping, and I would certainly think that having landscaping around that sign, however minimal it might be, is certainly going to make that more attractive.
Sure.
Totally agree with, the sign that's there right now is pretty useless for anybody that's trying to find some wayfinding. So, in looking at your drawing here, you've got a very square, rectangular type sign. The sign just on the next building to the south, which is another sign, big sign that leads into Midpoint. Your sign doesn't match that sign right now, the way that it's designed. Would it not, would you guys entertain matching that sign since it's going into the same place, just different end?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So you guys can see that, well, I guess we talk about that in discussion, right?
Leslie, if I may, are you talking about the sign that has the digital board on it, as far as matching existing
Yes.
signs? Yes, I know
It
which one you're
has
talking
the-
about.
It has,
2 posts.
it has 2 posts and it has a point.
Mhm.
So at least if the design matched that, even if it's not a digital board, which can be quite expensive, so that it was just
Cohesive.
stationary signage, at least it would be consistent with people understanding they can take this entrance into midpoint.
Yes. And we have only talked with one sign company out of Columbus, Mid-South Signs, but I'm sure they'd be more than willing to do another rendering for us that I could share with the group.
Okay.
So you're not sure if it'll be a digital board
No,
moving, just stationary?
We don't anticipate stationary only, yes, sir.
It's daytime business.
Yep.
Dale's going there in the dark. Well, winter.
Winter, yeah, that's true. Landscaping. So the other point that I wanted to make is that when you look at where the drive actually comes from the light and you've turned in to go, whether it's to urologic or to cardiology, there's really no signage right there at the end of that drive to tell you, hey, turn here to go around. There's just nothing. The only sign that you can see on the building is Urologic. Do you know if there has been any discussion about just a stationary sign that's right there to help people at that stop sign to know which direction to go?
There has been no discussion to my knowledge. I think there is an island there, if I recall the parking lot set up. There's probably capacity for that, but again, the landowner, Chris Mills, would have to, I guess, agree to. But I see the value in that, Leslie.
Okay. All right, that was all the questions that I had for Mr. Fallon.
I think it would be within the committee's right to make that recommendation along with the decision.
Okay. Are you guys planning on doing any kind of signage off of Industrial? Isn't that where the walk-in clinic side is supposed to be?
Actually, the walk-in clinic is on the front side, on the Gloucester side. The back side that you're talking about, Industrial, is our ambulatory surgery center that we constructed 2 years ago in May. There is a sign there that we inherited. I'm trying to think of how that all happened. There was one in the parking lot. I think it had wind damage, and Chris, instead of tearing it down, offered it to us because it was directly in front of our surgery center. So we've actually already done that. So on Industrial, no, but it's more in the parking lot, kind of like what you recommended earlier.
All right, but at this time, we're not talking about any of that.
No.
If something like that came up, Tanner, that would have to be
Consider
a separate, okay.
And that center sees approximately 12 to 15 patients a day. We've got other ways to notify, but much less volume, bigger impact on the front of the. When I say the front, I'm referring to Gloucester Creek,
Gloucester.
or Gloucester Street. Yes.
Okay.
I would note that if you wanted to make that recommendation about a directional sign, I would probably include that approval in your motion to, with this decision, so we don't have to come back if they do choose to
Okay,
make that request.
You don't have a problem with
I
more
think it would
signs,
be-
like
I
once
think-
they turn
I
in?
think in this circumstance,
It would actually be beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. It would actually help accommodate their request now, or, further their, the reasoning for this request.
Sure. And it's just like out at the mall, actually.
Yeah.
When you get down there to that mall road, there's some
Yeah,
small
yeah,
signs.
that's right.
Go
It
here
does
for-
make
Because
sense.
this sign's gonna get you into the boulevard, but once you get to the, the dead end, are you going left or you going right? I need to know that.
Exactly. All right, is there any further questions for Mr. Fallon? Thank you so
Thank you all.
much. You can go ahead and be seated. We'll now open the public portion of the hearing for this application. Is there anybody here to speak for or against? No, good. Moving on. Does the committee have any questions? Wait a minute, did I miss something? I'm sorry. Okay, no speakers. So we've closed the public portion of the application review. We'll now open it up for committee discussion.
I think we've already discussed it.
So it's important that it have that additional signage. I don't know how to state that.
Victor's great with words.
Victor?
Just for clarification, as part of our discussion, does, Leslie, you mentioned it, I'm not wedded to it, but I wanna make sure that we take into consideration your thoughts about the signage and the matching of the signage. Do we have any kind of consensus about that as a committee?
So,
I don't wanna freight this down,
nope,
with,
Perfect.
on the directional signage, but I do wanna make sure so that the applicant has clarity once we make our motion.
does everybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Can you see that, the one with the arch, not arched, with the gabled top? So that would match what's going on, and I think it would give us a better appearance than having yet another big sign.
Yeah.
So
Not a digital board, to be clear, a
Not-
static board that resembles or is in the same characteristics of the current.
Yeah, I
sign.
would say it's similar to at the Barnes Crossing Mall where on the Barnes Crossing entrance, they've got the tall sign, and then on Gloucester, they've got the same type of sign to, it ties it together, two different entrances, and the same concept here is to let you know that it's the same building. I don't have a problem with it.
Same development.
Uniformity of the signage.
Yes, it's just
that
kind
seemed
of
to appeal to
tie
everybody
the look together.
with the gable top,
Yes.
pointed top like the
Or
other
just
sign.
to match or be very close to
Complementary.
complementary to the existing sign and style.
Yep.
But obviously with fixed signage instead of the
Yep,
reader
and fixed
board.
signage, exactly. And the sign that we're referring to is the Midtown Point sign directly to the south. All right, and then the other part of the motion needs to include the addition of
Directional signage.
some directional signage once you turn from Gloucester.
Is that Robert E. Lee
Extended.
extended?
Extended.
Is that a three-way stop there?
It is.
I think so.
Yeah, I stop there all the time.
So then right there at the
I
end of
stopped there, I'm not quite sure it's three
It's behind the
directional.
Happy Dentist place.
Yeah, but right there
Yeah.
at that three-way stop,
Yep,
like I said, there's
The
like an
three-way
island. There's a
intersection.
little small island there.
yep. At the three-way intersection, once you're on the three-way intersection of Robert E. Lee Extended and Industrial. No,
No.
What is it?
Well,
what is that road?
That was Robert E. Lee Extended
Robert E. Lee.
in Gloucester. That is Robert E. Lee. That whole little
If you
section
come
right
off
there.
of Industrial, you're on Robert E. Lee. It's
Okay.
Robert E. Lee.
It's a
I
three-way.
would put some type of, references to what type of sign. Just, I know we're talking directional, but, 4 foot, 6 foot, some parameter of what that sign could be. What would be allowable, and that's up to the committee. But I would think some type of small
Whatever like
directional.
size the mall sign is, I mean, they've got,
Those are like 6 foot wide, aren't
I
they?
don't know what the,
I don't know that that area needs something that big.
4 to
I was-
6.
I was thinking more like almost political sign.
No, no.
Size.
You need
I
something
think it needs to
bigger.
be a little
Arrows.
bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it needs to
yeah,
be-
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah,
with
it's
little
kind of
arrows.
like a mall, so it needs to be 4 to 6 feet, wouldn't you say, Scott? Wide?
Probably, yeah.
By 3
3
feet
or 4
tall,
feet
3 or
tall,
4 feet
yeah.
tall? 3 to 4 foot tall.
And department staff will work with the applicant to determine the exact size, specifications, yeah.
Well, somebody needs to put that in the form of a motion.
We
All right.
need to put that in form of-
I move that we approve the request flex variance 25-01 with the understanding that the applicant will make the sign consistent with and similar to the Midpoint Mall sign located to the south of the proposed site for the sign, and that directional signage of an approximate size of 4 to 6 feet by 3 feet be placed in the general area of Robert E. Lee Extended for the purpose of allowing individuals visiting these businesses to be able to find which way to go.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All opposed? It's unanimous. Mr. Newman, would you please advise the applicant of their options?
Yes, if you would just get with Miss Marilyn Bell, and she will direct you as far as next steps. If you would get with your sign contractor, share the information about what the committee deemed as the appropriate next steps as far as the actual sign specifications, and maybe get with Mr. Mills regarding the directional sign, and then just let Miss Bell know what you guys decide. All right, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate
sir.
you. Our next item up on our agenda is text amendment 25-01. This is a proposed text amendment to sections 4.14.51 and 4.5, adding golf driving range as a use by right in the regional commercial RC zone district. Mr. Newman, has a public notice been issued?
Yes, the Department of Development Services issued a public notice for this public hearing in the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal. We have had no responses to that, and I would ask Mr. Faulkner to offer the department's staff analysis of this request.
176 Shady Acres Road in Tupelo, serving as a consultant for the city at the moment, and reviewed this just in terms of the comprehensive plan. That's the basis of the zoning districts that we have, and anything that we do to change those needs to be consistent with the intent of that comprehensive plan. In this case, I think it does. The regional commercial zoning district was designed to have high-impact, car-oriented businesses concentrated in the area where we've got good transportation infrastructure. Over the years since that mall was originally developed, we've increased the land area there. Also, the business conditions of a retail center have changed. Brick and mortar retail is not as important as it used to be, and in order to keep the shopping district viable and growing and effective, we open to entertaining other uses to be brought in, more active uses, more entertainment kind of things. And so when the business contacted the city about doing this, the city was open to change, but we had to make the code fit into it. In the past, a use like this might have been sort of relegated out to an open space area, but with the development, planned development of additional roadway through the west side of the area between Gloucester and Natchez Trace, there'll be additional land available, and this looks like an appropriate use. It will support bringing people in from the region that wouldn't otherwise be here. This is a use that doesn't exist in the area now, and it just in general, if it looks like it's not going to hurt anything, we tend to want to agree with a proposed new use.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Faulkner.
Does the committee have any questions of Mr. Faulkner or Tanner Newman?
I think this was pretty straightforward. Yes, sir.
I believe I heard right that the actual motivation for the change was as a result of an inquiry by a prospective business as to the possibility of doing it.
That's correct. This, the proposed development is what I would consider a mini Topgolf facility. This developer is very far along in the process of this development, and to be quite frank, the only two things holding it up are this amendment allowing it in the zoning district, and we're working on a utility easement for the water line. Get these two things wrapped up, and they will be ready to break ground.
Fantastic. If we have no further questions, we'll move on to the public portion. Is there anybody to speak for or against? Nobody is here.
Anything, Mr. Logan, was there anything you'd like to
Mr.
add?
No, it certainly would meet the legal requirements that it be, that it's a change in circumstances, clear and convincing change in circumstances. When the development code was adopted, I believe in 2013, or the comprehensive plan, even prior to that, we didn't have a road up there, and it was just farmland, so, or not farmland, maybe just woods, and up by the Natchez Trace and the North Gloucester. So it's certainly, by it being built out, there is a clear and convincing change of circumstances in that area. You've seen TSC, and we have gone in and rezoned along that line, and we use that, even though that threshold is probably too much just to add a use to this area, it is an appropriate use.
So I did have a question. This property backs up to a residential area, is that correct?
I do not believe so. You've got the Natchez Trace on one side, which the developer has sought and received their approval for what they're attempting to develop here. And then also you have a Tractor Supply Company on what would be the east side. There may be some residential, on the other side of the woods there, but there's no type of residential development as far as I know. We reviewed that. And of course, there will be lighting requirements and, netting requirements and all that will be decided through the plan review process, but certainly we'll take all those things into consideration.
So that would be my only concern is we have lighted foot candles and how they would affect any kind of residential developments that are behind there. We sure don't want,
I do know that
Blaring.
there would be a substantial green buffer as far as existing trees and wooded area that's there that will remain. So there should be no direct access from the lighted development to any existing residential development.
I mean, if the trace is gonna want a buffer, I can't see that
Yeah.
it would be a problem for a residential area. If
I'm thinking it's around 1,000-foot buffer, Ben. Does that sound accurate as far as off the trace
Off the
requires?
trace in that area, I'm not, there are certain areas of the trace that have that 1,000-foot buffer plus, and that's just, you can't build something that's more than 30-something feet tall, other than some exceptions they carved out for the high school and for Harrisburg Church. There are other areas where back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, that the Natchez Trace or the state of Mississippi obtained scenic easements which restrict activities on that property. Stephen and I have done a cursory search up there, not for this, but for another project that y'all are aware of, that on obtaining some easements that restrict commercial activity within that scenic easement. But this area, we've looked at the maps and the trace maps and also gone to the courthouse, and it be no impact on that unless they develop something further to the west. I think this is far enough away that it's, and it's kind of down it's down from there, from the road. If you look down there, there's gonna be, we have a sewer, and a sewer easement on the east side that runs, to Barnes Crossing Extended and runs up north of there. And then there is some housing but it's pretty far away as that Beach Spring Road goes. There's a lake that's just below TSC, and it pushes whatever residential development pretty far north there and through the woods.
Do we need in the text amendment for this one particular line item that's being added, do we need to have anything such as a statement for a buffer zone?
I don't know, because all that's already handled in the development code and in our building codes. This is strictly just a text amendment to the development code allowing this use in the RC zone. All the other development requirements are still applicable. And this vote tonight is not, necessarily an approval for this particular location or site. It's just amending this zoning district as far as the allowed uses to allow a driving range as a use within that zoning district.
Okay. So you're saying we do not need to have any kind of restriction that's on that says if you do it in the zone, there has to be a buffer?
Right, because all the existing buffer requirements they're already in place and they will be applied in any given circumstance that involve the driving range.
Okay.
Yes.
Will this be added on as item 27, and then vehicle service becomes 28? Text.
Yes, we will draft with council an actual ordinance or an actual amendment to go to city council. We just need the planning committee to make the recommendation that yes, we do recommend to make this change, and then the council will actually hold a public hearing as well and pass the actual amended development code section.
All right, so we're adding a driving range.
Yes, ma'am.
And the driving range is being added to,
Golf driving range to section 4.14. .51
Oh, there it is.
and section 4.5.
Four point one four, point 5.1,
No, 4.14.51 and section 4.5, which are both the uses, allowed uses in regional commercial.
all right, is there any further discussion?
I move that we approve the text amendment.
I'll second
Second
it.
Aaron? Aaron, okay, so we have a motion made by Scott Davis and seconded by Aaron Washington. All in favor? All opposed? It's passed unanimously. So Tanner, what is the next step?
Next step is we will work, the department staff will work with legal to draft this amendment to go to city council, and we'll hold a public hearing at the council level for the amendment to the development code, and hold that hearing and seek the council's approval.
Wonderful. Appreciate you guys being forward-thinking. Thank you for all of that. All right, our next item up is the Urban Renewal District Expansion. The present amendment adds a 17-acre tract located off South Spring Street between the two railroads extending to Elizabeth Street. This area was formerly the site of a large group of warehouses, which were vacant and were finally demolished. A redevelopment concept has been proposed to reinvent this area for mixed-use, commercial, and residential purposes. I would call to the podium Ms. Debbie Brangenberg. Would you please come, state your name, address, and present to the committee?
My name is Debbie Brangenberg, 254 South Front Street, Tupelo. And they had to bring out an dinosaur for this. And asked me to give you a presentation that I put together for the current administration when they first came on board, to show you how dated it is. The little guy with the ping pong paddle is now 14 years old. So it's this is an overview of where Fair Park began, and then to talk to you about the intentional steps that we have made through the years to see the prosperity of this area and the downtown. I am acting now as the project director for the Tupelo Redevelopment Agency. I came out of retirement and... Huh? Is that good? I came out of retirement to work with the Tupelo Redevelopment Agency to complete these phases that are Fair Park District. And then we had the opportunity to amend and expand our Urban Renewal District, and this is what this is about. But this is a historical look at how we got to where we are and where we're going. All right. Gordon, right, left arrows, right? Okay. You can see some of the pictures of existing things, and some things have changed. If you will look, this is a timeline that dates back to 1990, where there was a market assessment done for the area, and we were working toward the 2010 comprehensive plan. As we worked through that, we became a designated Mississippi Main Street community, and the Fair Park District, which was the former fairgrounds, was identified as an area for expansion of our downtown. It was a very rare thing for us to have 50 acres, plus or minus, that was totally vacant and agricultural land adjacent to your downtown. The city of Tupelo had already purchased the downtown mall property, and we're in design phase, if you will, for the Cadence Arena. And so there was a huge opportunity to capitalize on existing assets and to make that a part of downtown rather than building a white elephant that people just attended, but that it very carefully integrated into the operations of downtown. So we move along. We had an intensive market study. We developed design criteria, parking analysis. You can read all the things. And by 1994 to 1996, we built the vision of what we wanted to see in the area. And we developed a master plan with an advisory committee, and we then went into a letter of intent with Henry Turley and Company, and they began to put together some of the land use pieces and give us the graphics, which are there. And then we move along to the land acquisition and some of the construction phases of the area. Christopher Chadwin came in with the first land use plan, and then Henry Turley, Lenny Ricks, and Kiss refined that into what we see today. I'm going backwards. As you can see, I've outlined all of that. And it was made a part of the comprehensive plan in 2022. The bottom line was, company was coming. Were we going to be ready? And we have the vacant land. This is what it looked like before. And it was all about the design, the guidelines, everything, development codes with an overlay district, and building the vision. And I did a dog and pony show to focus groups, to civic clubs, to citizens, to build consensus and support through all of the changing administrations. I'll point out that this project stayed alive through 7 administrations. So we had to work really hard to keep that ball rolling. These are some of the before and after pictures worth 1,000 words. This is the TVA substation. This is what it looks like now. The Bancorp South Arena, now Cadence. This is East Main Street. At the railroad tracks. This is an interim photo of how it's begun to develop downtown and our streetscape. And then we established the overlay district. We implemented the 2010 plan, and the market assessment and economic enhancement studies gave us some of the tools to move forward on what we had. We knew that for retail commerce to succeed, we needed residential components with this plan, and that was part of what we wanted to bring into play in downtown. We appointed, you can read, you can see all the steps through that year. I won't read that. That's one thing I don't like, is for you to have to, for me to read to you the PowerPoint, but it was very intentionally done. This was the original site plan and we have modified it, and that's another component that we have kept consistent, is that we've remained flexible when opportunities arose. We've rethought things. The climate of Tupelo changed. For instance, in the top area on the left where it says single family, that was originally slated as multifamily, and we changed that. The green area is the sale barn property. It was originally in part of our land acquisition, And we had an opportunity on the north side of Main Street where Park Heights and Fair Park Grill are to acquire those properties. So that's another flexible change and movement that we made, that it was more prudent to go north of Main Street at that particular time. You can see the preliminary plat there in the brown. That doesn't look exactly the way that it is now, but we did develop and did the infrastructure for 39 lots in that area. And just a little tidbit about those 39 lots. All of the lots now are either under contract and have sold or are under option. And that's 7 lots that are left. And of the 11 lots, 7 are under contract or sold. There are 4 lots, 2 permits have been issued and 2 are under review for construction in the next 6 months. So it is moving probably far better than we ever anticipated in terms of the construction. It took a little bump with COVID, but we have come back really fast. And just to give you, and I did a very conservative estimate of what that means financially from a private investment of taking the 39 lots and really giving a price of $350,000 on lot sales, and they are way exceeded that. If I just did that, it's $15 million plus in private investments, and the lot sales are somewhere in $750,000. We had the opportunity. We were shovel ready to establish the urban renewal district because it was vacant land, and we issued urban renewal bonds in 1999 of $22.6 million. The land acquisition, infrastructure, build City Hall, build automobile museum, and the hotel and conference center. And the city granted the powers to the Tupelo Redevelopment Agency to oversee the expenditures of these urban renewal bonds and take it out of the political realm of making business decisions. We had a vision. We had everything. You can see we were very intentional about where we were and how we went about this process. Phase 1, you can see, is beautiful. And right now in phase 1, in the green, that's the only lot available now for construction. I'm trying to read my own writing. We added development services staff to the Downtown Design Review Committee in 2002, and this helped with the overall permitting process. We developed the development code was amended for our zoning, and by 2003 to 2018, a whole lot happened. And the project for public spaces, we were the one pilot project through the National Main Street for 2011 when we were considering the Elvis Birthplace Trail, and we got some excellent recommendations from that turned it into what it is today. And one of the key things in how we funded that is MDOT said, if you will connect downtown with the Elvis Birthplace, we will give you some partial funding, a match grant at that. And that's talking about collaborating and using your resources, but it had to have sidewalks and bike trails. We did a housing survey, and then we moved to phase 2. Did you recognize something? And of phase 2, we have the green lot. That's the only lot that is not sold, plus the single family 4 acres, 4.2 acres to the west of the existing pond, still to develop.
Why is that one not sold? Do we have any?
It's a narrow lot, and it's gonna take a special house plan, of which I have one that will fit that with a lower primary bedroom. Had a realtor call me about it today.
Good.
So,
Where is that at? I didn't see that. Can you go back one slide? Where is it at?
okay, you know where Victor lives?
So if I might, ma'am.
Sure.
That's my house there. It's Judy's house. And that's an open green space.
So where's the 4 acres that she's talking about?
That's over here on the other side of the retention.
Up toward the
On
railroad
the other
tracks.
side of the railroad tracks.
It's on our side of the railroad tracks. It's between the pond and the belfry, if you will.
Okay.
The area they just finished clearing out, you may have noticed a lot of clearing out was done in that area recently.
Okay.
These are some of the developments through all. This was before the Tupelo Convention and Visitors Bureau. This is what it looks like now. When we phase 3, Renaissance Center for Ideas, CDF, Mugshots, Fair Park Towers, Public Infrastructure, Hotel Tupelo, and that's all in phase 3B. And then phase 3B would be those large lots in green that's left to develop. A portion of that on the left side or the south side is meant for condominiums or brownstones along there. There's a natural break between the two with an alley behind them to separate the commercial from the residential.
The green is the residential?
Well, the green, and it's all green, but you see
Where the little lots are.
The
Gotcha.
little lots is residential. Wish I had a laser pointer.
That's along Clark.
That's along Clark. Now, this is an old slide. So if you can just go ahead in your mind, get your green highlighter and highlight every one of those lots. Because that's 39 lots and they're all taken. And there are homes built in 90-ish% of, has 39 lots, only 11 don't have homes on them. The Cadence Arena has made some expansions and improvements. V&A Bank, of course, built and chose to locate downtown. And these were some of the early renderings that we had of what the vision could look like. I said 7 administrations, but it's 9 administrations and 8 mayors. And it was the connection and the capitalizing on the assets that we had. And throughout, before 2021, up to 2021, you had $214 million in public and private investment in the area. The 24 million additional private investment projected in 2021. We saw at that time a 44% increase in ad valorem taxes, which totaled about 2.0 million over a 12-year period. This is contributing to our sales tax revenue. It's improving the quality of life and increasing tourism. We made connections. We wanted to make sure we had private investment, activities, increasing tourism. And if you can think about it, this rendering actually came to fruition almost to the building. And, we had a mission statement that we are downtown Tupelo, American rhythm to true Southern spirit. And that brings us to the conclusion of that. All of that, I'm gonna back up. Well, I don't know that I can back up. Anyway, if I go back to the very beginning and you look at the master plan of that area, what we are proposing now is to make this is the one I wanted to do, is to make a third amendment to the urban renewal overlay and the district and the area. I believe in your packet you have maps. I got it right here. Thank you. Of what that extension would be. And you would be able to see, I think you have to, you would have to get a full perspective by turning it upside down like this to show how this is adjacent to phase 4. You may have to turn one more page or go back.
This is south.
This is north right here.
And this is another golden opportunity. The city acquired this property with a property trade, and this was the former Federal Compress property. And so once again, you have vacant land that is prime for expansion of the downtown business district and complementing the our Mill Village and our residential area. And it will have 3 phases. We have commercial, we have mixed use, and then residential. And when I say residential, we're talking more in terms of upper floor housing over commercial, and then there will be some townhomes, if you will, perhaps small scale multifamily buildings in the area, but it would all complement the activities that would go on in this area. The last page of your packet shows how the property will be subdivided and platted. And at that point, I mean, this is everything that we know, and they want to continue this. We want to continue this under the Tupelo Redevelopment Agency to be able to move through with land sales and any public investment in the area.
So at this point, the city council has reviewed the initial request and sent or requested that the planning committee review this request as a third amendment to the urban renewal plan or urban renewal district, and to pass a resolution stating your opinion, your approval or your opinion of the request here to approve this amendment and expansion. Ben, I believe, has a final copy of the resolution that we're requesting be considered tonight. Ben, would you like to go over that or run through that?
Right, and I didn't have a copy of the packet earlier today, but it does reference, it's the me just back up, Tanner, if you don't
Yeah,
mind,
Absolutely.
and thank
Thank you.
Debbie,
Outstanding job.
my good friend,
Thank you, ma'am.
the architect of a lot of this stuff that you've just seen, which she ought to write a book on it, because it would be an absolute, I was on the Board of Aldermen when we hired Debbie, and I had to go to the Army for a little bit and came back, and we really didn't get to know each other then, but she has become a dear friend, a mentor in this. Once I came back in 2013 after the good citizens sent me to the House in 1993. So, but she could talk all night about it, I could too, but I know that I want to be respectful of your time. And Pat was there all along with this and on the development services side. And these are architects of what we see today. So thank them anytime you see them, and for not only their hard work, but for their vision. The city council the other night, at the February 18th meeting, we declared certain real property to be blighted and suitable for an urban renewal project. I know that we discussed that at our planning, our pre-meeting tonight. That it's kind of hard to say how is it blighted because it's vacant. And the statute, the urban renewal statute, allows that to be blighted because it's a use that it needs to be used for something other than being vacant. And it would take the private sector a lot of money to come in and bite it off one big whack at a time. And so, you know, we feel that it is blighted from the standpoint of development for the downtown area. It represents an opportunity to develop 17 acres similar to this, with this track record for TRA. We directed that a public hearing be held, and I think that's going to be on April the 1st. And then we are going to restate, and it's the third amendment to this. I know Debbie didn't get into all that, but these resolutions and everything do. We had to amend it to add the automobile museum. We had to amend it for some other less, just kind of I guess it was more of a formal or a procedural type thing back in the 2000s. And this is the first time that we have added an area to the urban renewal plan. This 17 acres, Debbie mentioned that we had swapped it for an old factory. We talked about that the other night, the old Daybright building down there. It is being not repurposed, but filled with XL, is it XL Outdoors, Tanner?
Don't quote me on it.
Which is an outdoor type, not outfitter, but kind of like Ozark, or they have outdoor type stuff, and it's there. It could be moving their national headquarters here in the distribution center on Green Street, you know, in the older industrial area of Tupelo. So it's a win-win for us and who we swap the property with. We have directed that notice be publicized. We will run it 2 times. We will have 30 days until we first ran that. And we're asking y'all tonight to make a finding that the amended and restated urban renewal plan is in conformity with the comprehensive plan. That was done before. I know that in your packet that you have a resolution there that for the planning committee, but also as an exhibit to what y'all are looking at tonight, is a resolution that the city council passed. Everything is correct about that resolution except for Exhibit B. And we were kind of rushing. We don't ever rush around here, but we were kind of rushing to get this before the city council so we could could do the public notice. And we had discussed in the Exhibit B, that third amended and restated urban renewal plan. Everything is all right in there because it correctly states what we did, but we did not want to mention, we mentioned that we had urban renewal bonds in the past, but we did not want to give the impression that this new project would incur bonded indebtedness with urban renewal bonds. That's not to say that we can't do that or that we won't do that, but it's to say that right now we don't plan to do that. That we think that we can, we've had a good track record over the last 5 to 10 years in doing things in Fair Park, especially the residential phase, phase 4 residential. Most of that, I think all of that has been built since 2020. And that is a full subdivision. We had a little wrinkle there that we put out RFPs, we got non-responsive RFPs, and we came up with a way that we wanted to incentivize this project, that portion, to where people could afford the houses at a price point. Now that price point went through the roof when we had low interest rates. Now it's still not prohibitive, but we weren't trying to get affordable housing. We were trying to get, decent housing. So, or something that would compare to what was to the west of it. And we did that. But your lot out there cost you $25,000. All of them were about the same size. That's pretty cheap. And then we even gave a rebate on top of that on square footage below 3,100 square feet. So much per square foot. So that you could end up with a lot out there for about $14,800 with all the infrastructure already done and next to, neighbors already established in a beautiful area that you could walk to just about everything downtown. And I see Victor doing that. I'm gonna get you some signage out there because you're just a little younger than I am, and I go to cardiology and I can find it on my phone. But but we gave that incentive and it sold them. You would think that most of the builders that are going to build a house worth $250,000, they wouldn't be bothered by haggling you over $11,000 worth of a rebate, but they do. So that's one of the aspects of having this in an urban renewal plan, is that you don't have to sell your lots or your areas as the market goes up and up. If it's vacant, yeah, you could sell it for what you paid for it. But if you come in and you put infrastructure in there, then do you add that or do you want to develop it? Do you wait on somebody to pay what it's going to cost because you have now added value to it? And then the first place is usually the cheapest place to buy a lot. By the time you get to the end of it, unless it's just a bad lot, it's going to be sky high because it's got all this momentum built up in the neighborhood and the appraisal values. Urban renewal allows us to sell this at a fair value that we establish on the front end, so that it's consistent. We can come up with a plan, we can market the properties, and we don't have that market effect to it of just driving the price to where at some point it is too expensive to develop something here. That's what we want to do down there off by the fish hatchery. And so that's the primary advantage of the urban renewal statute at this point in time. Before, it allowed you to eminent domain stuff and, tear stuff down and everything. But now that's the primary incentive to give it to TRA. Plus what Debbie kind of mentioned before, and take the politics out of the development of this area. And so that TRA can take a look back and know that their mission is to redevelop the areas that the city allows them to redevelop. So if you could remove, I passed something out tonight on the Exhibit B, take that out. And put in the one that you got. The ones in the packet, take that Exhibit B out and put the third amended and restated urban renewal plan that I've passed out tonight.
Is this just 2 pages?
Yes, ma'am.
It's, the first page has all the verbiage, and basically the second page is the voting and the signatures?
No, it's 2 pages, it's Exhibit B in that resolution that you have, that's in your packet.
Yes, in the packet.
To take, what are we putting in there?
The Exhibit B off of what?
That's on this packet. There's a dinner packet, and then in the original packet, the Exhibit B is substituted with the one in the dinner packet that was handed out.
I never got that thing in the packet. Here. That's okay.
But that just eliminates the reference to that the financing will be done by bonds.
Understood.
And gets more into going forward in the history of the thing, which the resolution pretty much does. So, but that's what we're asking, is that pass the resolution that Tanner has provided to the committee, and that will get us on our next step to April the 1st in amending after a public hearing, amending the urban renewal plan.
Committee discussion.
Here's the most updated resolution.
No,
She's passing them down.
I see.
If you want, here's your copy, and I'll get all of that. It's Exhibit B.
No.
They took out, here you go.
Is this B?
B is within that resolution.
I'll figure this out after the
Okay.
fact. I'm not gonna waste
But
your
y'all's
time.
resolution says planning committee on it.
Yes.
That one says city council, so
I've got
I
it.
didn't, you refer to the amended and restate third
This is
amendment
Exhibit B.
in your resolution, and I want you to have the right amended plan.
I have it.
Basically, it would say, the one he's talking about, say item 14.
It's in this. You've just got, this is the one that we're going
Here,
to
we pass
approve.
that down the list.
Okay.
Exhibit B
Okay,
is in here.
thank you.
Okay.
Didn't mean to be
No,
confusing.
no, you got it, Madam Chair.
Okay, so this is all, thank you. Okay, thank
Are we
you.
at committee discussion?
No. Does Pat, yes, ma'am.
Just one added scenario I need to get up is to let you know that before as we developed that, we saw the need to bring in Arnett Muldrow and Associates to work with us on land use for the area that was the most beneficial to make the connections with Mill Village and the downtown. And we plan to make that full connection of, like, we're gonna use the underpass under the railroad to connect back to South Spring Street, which would make the gravelly property and all of that along there, prime for commercial. And, so there's also, the Greenway Trail that's being floated, that a portion of that would go through this site to connect to some of the others. So there's a definite loop and connection, that it's not gonna be just a standalone, piece of property.
Gotcha.
That it will connect to other things.
Thank you very much. Mr. Faulkner, did you have anything that you'd like to come to the podium and add to what's already been talked about?
No, this is what due diligence looks like.
Gotcha, all right. So, with that, I'll close the presentation portion, and now does the committee have any questions and or discussion?
I have a question for city staff. Are we voting on two motions? The first motion being that this urban renewal plan is consistent with the general development plan for the city? Is that a required finding that we have today?
Yes.
Is the second finding we're required to make today the actual approval and passing of the resolution?
Well, within the resolution, it actually states that the reference proposed third amended and restated urban renewal plan is found to conform with the comprehensive plan for the physical development of the city as a whole, and approval thereof is recommended. So I think this resolution covers.
Will cover that.
everything. Yes.
That's
only
fair
thing-
enough. I didn't
Findings
get-
in the resolution.
Yeah.
All right.
The
It's
only
in there.
thing that I would ask is in this resolution, it states Exhibit A, and that needs to be amended as Exhibit B, where it says a copy of the third and amended restated urban renewal plan is attached as Exhibit A.
Right
We just need to scratch out A and put Exhibit B
Where are you at?
on
It says
page
Leslie Mark.
Exhibit A.
No, that's the city council in there, Tanner.
I'll get
I
that.
was trying to show her which.
Your resolution is the last one in the packet.
And your name's on it.
And we need
No,
to.
no, you're right, I'm
We
sorry.
need to amend as well to, well, we're not taking
No.
out Exhibit B,
We'll
we're
fix it.
using to substitute in
Correct.
Exhibit B. Exhibit A and Exhibit B remain with the amended Exhibit B that you passed out today.
This is
And
the
we need
amended
to
B.
change the names on the resolution
That
to
needs be
reflect
B.
Leslie Mark as acting
Okay.
chair
Yeah,
and
which I-
Lindsay Leak as,
Yep, it says
Acting
chair.
acting
Secretary.
secretary.
Okay. Yeah.
So that has to be in the motion.
We already have Leslie Mark on here as acting chair. We just need to list Lindsay Leak as acting
Right.
secretary.
I made those changes on my copy.
So this one is being replaced with this one.
I think I've got it.
Okay.
Okay. Wow, okay. All right. Garbage. Wonderful. Any other discussion? Have we had any discussion other than that? No. So we're gonna need a motion, cause you said that we're really voting on one thing
It's
that
only
is
one thing.
combining multiple
One motion
things.
takes
It's-
care of
It's only
everything.
one motion, will take care of everything, and I'll mention the amendments that we discussed in the motion to make sure that we've got it all covered.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and, it's my neighborhood, so if anybody's got any beef, they can come see
I
me
have just a
about
couple
it.
more questions. I just have a couple of quick, so you guys will work out amongst the planning and stuff, additional connectivity, if there's going to be some additional walkways over the railroad, like what they did off of Front Street going toward Elkin Building, you know, if there's gonna be any of that kind of stuff, that'll be all fine-tuned through the actual process
Yeah,
of,
there will be an actual preliminary plat that will come back to the planning committee for consideration that will outline the infrastructure, sidewalks, the greenway is part of this, project as well. So streets and infrastructure will come back with an actual request to approve the preliminary plat.
fantastic.
May I ask a question regarding the greenway? Is the proposal that, that greenway connect with the Music Bend Trail?
Now that, I'm not
I may be
exactly, I'm
asking
not,
too
yeah, I'm
much.
not exactly, I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with exactly where the Music Bend Trail ties in.
Across the street from Veterans and
Right.
behind the baseball, softball fields.
I think that the way, and don't quote me, but I believe that it will connect. in
With the
some way.
sidewalks from Fair Park to Elvis.
It'll tie in with, under that bridge underpass, the
I
bridge
know
there,
it
the
will.
that goes under the railroad is where the greenway will tie in.
Yeah. Got it.
So,
At this point, nothing on Elizabeth Street will be, added sidewalks or anything for connectivity on Elizabeth Street that's gonna tie back over to Main Street.
No, this, on the very last page, it shows the greenway and sidewalk access, which the greenway runs through the very center of the property. And then all of this are exterior sidewalks that all tie into that underpass that goes under the road.
Just putting a bug in somebody's ear, it sure would be nice if Elizabeth Street was kinda you know, included in our wonderful development that's going on down here?
We, have developed and amended the preliminary plat to include future relaning of Elizabeth Street.
Glad to hear that. Thank
So
you.
that's up to another group, and
But that other group, the Major Thoroughfare Plan, has in this phase, phase 7, and it may have even been in phase 6, they have approved the widening of Elizabeth Street as a possible project. They hadn't moved it up to actually do it, but we're carrying that to the next phase that we'll vote on in 2026 to phase 8. And this will coincide with this.
Would they consider sidewalks on that as well? I know in the past they've not been real big on sidewalks, but it certainly seems walkability and connectivity.
Right, I think they will in parts of this, especially out there in front of what we're gonna do. Now, we're hoping that we can meander through the development and get under the railroad track, but you always have to have a plan B. And that would be to go down Elizabeth Street and then back up. Once you get to Mill Village, back up, what's that, Spring Street? Okay, and get to the same place. But we're working with the Greenway Trust. They have formed an organization, Rob Hairston, CDF, Rick Culp, folks like that. They're into the biking, running, hiking stuff, and they're looking at Pat, how much is it, 20-something mile diagonal trail through town that has spurs off of it, which probably would catch the Music Bend Trail. But it starts somewhere up around Belden or Flowerdale and goes all the way to East Tupelo.
Nice.
But you have to cross the railroad track somewhere, and this might be a good place to cross one of them. And the other one we just got to figure out.
All right, if there's no further discussion, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the resolution of the City of Tupelo Planning Committee recommending approval of the proposed third amended and restated urban renewal plan with an amended Exhibit B, amending the language in paragraph 6 regarding financing as proposed before us today.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Tanner, would you advise what the next step on that is?
Need to get Mr. Mart and Mr. Leake's signature before you leave here tonight. Otherwise, that completes our business for tonight, and would ask that we go ahead and schedule a meeting for the month of April. I do anticipate a rezoning request for that meeting, so go ahead and plan our regular scheduled meeting along with a work session a week prior.
All right, our work session then would be on March 31st. Does that work session work for everybody? 5:15 up on 3rd floor. That would make our public meeting on Monday, April 7th at 6 o'clock here in council chambers. Thank you, everybody, for your cooperation tonight and the wonderful presentations. We appreciate everybody's time. Anything further, Mr. Newman?
That'll do it.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
adjourn.
And second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Victor. We are adjourned.
thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for doing all that.
Good to see all of you.
Confusing.
Good job.